Hey everybody, Eric Switzer here. Welcome to a brand new show, Your Favorite Game. I'm joined by my two permanent co-hosts, George Foster
Hello.
and the gamer's Editor-in-Chief Stacey Henley.
Hello.
New show, not that different from the old show, but what we want to do with Your Favorite Game is get a little more specific. Kind of focused each episode on a particular topic. This week, we're talking about your favorite zombie game, something we're all pretty passionate about. Before we get into your favorite zombie game, let's talk a little bit about zombies. Why do you think zombies are so ubiquitous and they are so popular? I have a theory, but I want to hear yours.
I would like to hear your theory first, Eric.
I would really like to hear George's theory first, because I don't think it'll be steeped in a literary tradition somehow.
There's zombies are based on culture, myth. There's a really deep history to them. No, it's because they're easy to kill. That's why they're fun.
Yeah. No, I guess I appreciate that you think I was going to have something smart to say.
And that I wouldn't have something smart to say. I do appreciate that as well.
I think now the way this is going to hit your ear is bad, okay? But just let it settle for a second.
It's a good intro to a new podcast.
Sometimes you just want to kill a lot of people and not feel bad about it.
And that was this episode, everyone. Thank you very much for watching.
No, I think that's definitely like a really big part of it. I don't know what games everyone is choosing. I can guess. Those of you who are watching this on YouTube can maybe guess what George is wearing, what he's going to pick. But yeah, there's lots of different ways that games and movies and books have done zombies. But I do think from a game perspective, especially in some of the big games where you just kind of amass thousands, they are a really, really fun target to go after. Like, there's some really interesting things you can do with kind of the dead rising and what that kind of means, and the kind of brainless shambling that zombies have, and as a metaphor for consumerism. But it just really is quite fun to blow them up in a way that it's not with living creatures. It's not with like animals or monsters or things. There's something quite unique about the guiltlessness, the lack of remorse that you're allowed to feel with zombies, that it's hard to do with really any other kind of weird, creepy thing.
And I think there's also like a sense of, like, in the terms, in horror terms, it's something that to us we could become. Obviously not real, but because a zombie is just a human passed on, that is like a real fear. That's like that hits harder than like a werewolf, for instance.
And I think there's also a gluttony aspect to it. It's kind of a vice, right? To me, it's like eating rice. Sometimes you just want to eat 1,000 of something. Sometimes you just want to kill 1,000 dudes.
The rice of the monster world.
Video game rice. Okay, well, there is so much to zombies in video games. And the more I thought about it, the more it feels like zombies touch every genre and way more series than I had even considered at first. So to get into that topic, George, what is your favorite zombie game?
Well, I don't want to be too obvious, but if you've seen my sick jacket, if you're watching on YouTube, then this sick, very uncomfortable jacket that is not made for sat down at an office chair is Dead Rising.
Can I just say something about the jacket?
Go on.
You look as uncomfortable as you feel.
Do I?
You're not really built for a motorcycle jacket. And I don't mean that even.
Let's not get personal.
I don't even mean that in the physical sense. It feels like those TikToks where it's like, which one of us is wearing the right clothes, and like two friends swap clothes. It feels like your cooler older brother has lent you his jacket.
I'm like the Fonz right now. If the Fonz murdered zombies, that's how cool I look.
All right, fine.
Go ahead, tell us why it's Dead Rising.
This was actually not a super easy pick. The other game I would have gone for would be Left 4 Dead 2. That one jumped high up the list. But for me, what Dead Rising does with its zombie paradise, as Capcom keeps calling it at the moment, I don't think you get anything like that in any other game. You don't get any other type of game where you can just go around murdering zombies in a unique location. Nothing else jumps to mind, right? Like, I can't even think of many big sandbox zombie games.
Yeah, Dead
besides,
Island's
like,
probably the
Dying Light.
closest, but I
Dead
think
Island, Dying
Dead
Light.
Rising is more contained, definitely.
Yeah,
and
and
we
the way
for
it
sure
does
wouldn't have Dead Island without
No.
Dead Rising.
No, exactly. It was a total trendsetter. The fact it was 18 years ago is wild to me. Like, the fact that, especially because I've been playing Deluxe Remaster recently.
Yeah,
Love
that is a
as
long
well.
time ago.
It is a long time. I was 7. That is how long ago that was.
Not a nice thing to say.
No, sorry about that. But the fact that it was 2006 as well, for me, is wild, because that game is so ahead of its time. I know it's a cliched thing to say, but the things they've done in that, the fact that it was allowed to be so obtuse, so difficult to work against, like the timing mechanics, the saving, how difficult bosses were, the controls. These all sound almost like bad things, but the fact they all work together beautifully into this painful game that you learn inside out, and then you just feel like a god when you play it.
No, it's interesting.
I've never had anything like that.
It's kind of the opposite of what we were just saying about how fun it is to kill zombies, because I mean, there's so many in Dead Rising that you can, by the end of it, just kind of mow through them, especially in the later editions when you get some of the like fancier weapons. But we like to think of gaming as kind of being constantly on this like evolutionary trajectory. There's always more triangles, it's more advanced, the themes are deeper these days. Oh, there's so much more mise-en-scène. But like there are parts of Dead Rising that they haven't done today because people couldn't handle it. People couldn't cope with like it being that hard. And I don't play games on the hardest difficulty. I don't, I'm not kind of someone who takes pride in like beating games on the absolute most torturous settings possible. But it's interesting that it was such a trendsetter that it was doing things in gaming that were quite unique to that era, with the way it kind of challenged you to play the game. It's not a kind of, however you want to do it, you'll have fun, you'll enjoy it. It wants you to do a very specific thing. And I think that's why the power fantasy of being able to then just mow down this endless row of enemies, it's really earned in a game like Dead Rising.
100%.
I haven't played the new one, so I don't know how it stacks up, but there's other games that I've played that have been another game that's just been remade, actually. Lollipop Chainsaw also has kind of these brainless things to just take on, and that never, even though I really like that game, it never felt as earned as something like Dead Rising, because there's so much effort that goes into actually surviving a zombie apocalypse in Dead Rising. I think makes it quite a cool use of what are on their own quite weak enemies.
Would you say that's sort of the Dark Souls of its day?
That was exactly what I was going to say. That it is. That's controversial. That's like calling Crash Bandicoot the Dark Souls of platformers. Like, let's not even go into it. But it really is like a good comparison. I've never understood Souls-likes, really. It's not been for me, and I always talk to people like, oh, I love how difficult they are. I love learning all about them and feeling like a master, and I just scoff. But it's the exact same with Dead Rising. It's just, for me, killing zombies, exploring a massive shopping center, trying on stupid outfits, and encountering psychopaths. Like, that appeals to me way more than vague lore that you have to read up on Reddit.
Yeah. Since I'm sort of committing to saying things that hit your ear wrong, I think Dead Rising, especially as it went on, is really an exploration of the joy of killing.
Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. I think that's what Capcom wants you to think as well.
Yeah, the creativity and the weapons and just the bloodlust that you get from mowing down dudes with guitars with swords stuck in them or whatever.
See, that's what hits my ear wrong. I tell you what, the murder simulator stuff, fine, I ignore that. But this is where things get weird to me for Dead Rising. So Dead Rising 2 is actually the game that introduced me to the series. I love it to bits. That's where the jacket's from, not one. Hardcore fans know. But Dead Rising 1 is my favorite, and it doesn't do any of that, really. Like, you have wacky weapons.
No, it doesn't, yeah.
No combo weapons, there's no multiplayer. Like, it is a very serious story. Like, what happens, especially after replaying it, is really tragic, really sad, really depressing. There's not really a good ending. There's no happiness, but it's how it does that with its main story and then intertwines that with you can run around with a toy sword smacking zombies. It's such a great juxtaposition of itself. And the series never really got that again. Like Dead Rising 2 kind of does it, and then after 2 we don't talk about Dead Rising much, purposefully. But the way that Dead Rising 1 did it was masterful. There's just no other game like it. Killing zombies is incredible. The story is great. It's just, for me, the pinnacle of what a zombie game should be.
And I think the killathon stuff really works with them being zombies as well, because all the stuff that Eric was saying there about the really creative ways to kill and the bloodlust and things, they all apply, probably more so, to a game like Mortal Kombat. I know it's very different because it's a fighting game, but
I like Mortal Kombat as well. That might say something.
But it feels very painful in Mortal Kombat. Like you're inflicting like humiliation on somebody in Mortal Kombat, even when you're just playing against the computer. Is it really personal?
It is the suffering.
Yeah.
It's the suffering that makes it.
But you don't really get that in Dead Rising. It's more the kind of the goofiness of it. It's not the kind of, I just killed this guy with a guitar. It's I'm killing 7 people with a guitar. It's And I think having it be zombies makes it a lot easier to depersonalize the violence that's in the game, and probably why it has more of a cool factor than some other games. I think being able to mow down zombies just gives it a little bit of, I don't know, bite, I guess.
Nice.
Dead Rising is such an interesting one to start with. So thank you, George, because it's set in a mall, and it is directly referencing George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And I think there's such a cool dialogue between the zombie movie and the zombie game. The George Romero's first zombie movie was Night of the Living Dead. That was it really was the origin of what we imagine zombies are and what zombies have been since then. But it was really the zombie video game. It was Resident Evil and House of the Dead that started the zombie craze, that made zombies so popular in media, and that led to like the Dawn of the Dead remake and all of those zombie movies. And it got so saturated that people were like, enough zombies. That was because zombie video games were so popular, and zombie video games became popular because of Romero's movies. So really cool, like trading back and forth.
It is wild to think that we used to have a time where zombies were every zombie game that's revealed. Even The Last of Us, I remember being scoffed at. Like every time something zombie was there, people were like, oh, I'm done with this.
Well,
it's like the grapple hook.
They're not zombies, of course, remember?
Oh, don't even. They're zombies. They're zombies. I don't even want to hear it.
One of my least favorite tropes is the zombie movie where no one's heard of a zombie.
Yeah. I hate that. The crawler. Oh, God.
The crawlers.
The day's gone.
The walkers. What's the worst one? I think it was Freakers.
Yeah.
Is that Days Gone?
Freakers is Days Gone as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Freakers. They're just call them zombies, folks. All right, Stacey, what is your favorite game with zombies?
I held pretty closely to the idea that they needed to be zombies, because I did think of The Last of Us. They're not called zombies. I also thought, because I find, not just because I love Mass Effect 2, but because I really like how they do the husks, which are like space zombies. But I went pretty religiously on it needs to be an actual zombie. And that led me to what I think, and I'm sure some of you will disagree, is the most iconic real zombie franchise ever, The Walking Dead.
The
The
most iconic zombie franchise ever.
I think if you asked a random person on the street to say, name something with zombies in, I think the most popular answer you would get, not the most influential, not the most innovative, the most popular answer people would say, I think it would be The Walking Dead.
I think I'm finding it hard to argue. I don't like it.
It is very kind of mainstream populism, but and
it's such a soap opera.
I really went off the series, but I didn't go off the game, which is the things that I want to talk about.
The game is fantastic.
Specifically as far as the zombies go, I really liked how the zombies worked in the second game, Season 2.
Wow.
Season 1 I think is probably stronger. I like playing as Lee. I like the so for people who haven't played the game, it's not really related to the TV series The Walking Dead. It's just things that are happening at the same time with different characters. occasionally there's some kind of crossover with Michonne is in there. But the first season is the rise of the apocalypse. Zombies appear and there's people who survive. The second season, they're more kind of settled into, okay, we have zombies, walkers, I think they call them, because they also don't call them zombies. But yeah, because it's so narratively based, it takes away a lot of the things that we were saying before of kind of it's really fun to kill them and they're kind of brainless things. It touches more on what George was saying of they are a reflection of us. You can become a zombie. You die and that's supposed to be the end, but actually no, you can be brought back. You can attack your loved ones, and we see things like that happen in The Walking Dead season 2. People get bitten and they don't want to say they've been bitten because they don't want to admit they're going to become a zombie. They don't want to be kind of left for dead. So I just really like the way that The Walking Dead is. Like, I feel the game is better than the show. Might also be controversial, but I feel the way it humanizes the zombies just makes them far more interesting. And that was what struck me with The Last of Us, with Mass Effect, and with The Walking Dead when we decided to do zombies this week. It was always for me going to be, what do I feel is the most interesting use of that trope, as opposed to the most fun use. I mentioned Lollipop Chainsaw, which I probably would have picked if I was going in that direction. I just feel that the humanity of something that specifically lacks humanity is something that's explored really well in The Walking Dead season 2.
I like that. I'm surprised season 2 specifically, that was where I kind of fell off of it. But I think your pick is like the opposite of mine, in the fact that
I think so.
Dead Rising, one zombie, nothing. You can do whatever you want to it. In The Walking Dead, one zombie is hell.
Well, one zombie can like end you, can wipe out a whole community. Very, very different power levels. That's a big difference.
And that one zombie is the person in your group or your family member that you've been surviving with and trauma bonding with for a year and a half.
It's got their face, it's got their memories, it reacts like them sometimes, which I think is why I'm drawn more to season 2, because Clem is less able to deal with that than Lee is. Plays Clem in the second one, obviously. I think seeing it through Clem's eyes is more interesting than, as much as I love the first one, the start of the zombie apocalypse is never the most interesting time for me. That's why I like that The Last of Us skips it. Most of The Last of Us, other than the opening scene, is takes place 13 years. It leaps into the future or something like that. It's quite a big leap.
15 or something.
To the point where people don't even know what Jurassic Park is anymore.
I think as well, for in the same way that why I like Dead Rising so much, the opposite of that again is that The Walking Dead has combat technically in scenes where you shoot people and smash a button, absolutely. But the emphasis is so far from that. It almost feels like a lot of the time like that's not an option, that these zombies are so powerful and they are so overwhelming and these people are so unequipped that that's not something they can do, that it is all about the dialogue and the story. And I always just found that really interesting as a way to do it, because most zombie games, including Dead Rising, Left 4 Dead, all of them, they're about the combat.
Yeah, I think a lot of zombie games describe them, act as playground. I know Dead Rising describes itself as a zombie playground, but I think, we said before about the kind of the guilt-free stuff, a lot of them rely on that, and they make for really fun, enjoyable video games that I love. But when we decided on zombies, I was instantly, like I say, drawn to. It probably says something about me that what's the least fun zombies I've ever seen? And I came up with The Walking Dead as an answer. Not that it's not a fun game to play, as I enjoy it, but you're right. It's deliberately designed to be, the things aren't gonna work out for you. It probably leans a little bit too hard on humans are the real monsters at times, right. But I still love the world that is created by Telltale.
Zombies are so ubiquitous and so overdone now that I think it is hard to find the depth and to find that what it is we connected to in the first place. What makes them scary, what makes them interesting. And it feels like Walking Dead, for all its flaws, really did bring it back to what zombies were about in the first place, like what Romero imagined them to be. And I think that's also what makes this game so unique among all the zombie games we're going to talk about. That human element for sure.
I think The Last of Us is comparable in a lot of ways how it humanizes not zombies. I know not zombies, but they're just zombies.
The cordyceps things.
They're zombies. They're plant zombies, fungus zombies, whatever. But I feel like even with The Last of Us, that still has such a heavy emphasis on combat and gameplay. So I wouldn't really say they're comparable at all.
The Last of Us
does something so different.
You know, the Last of... I think the titles do this for you. The Last of Us is on the last humans. It's all built around the final humans who are surviving. It's in Jacksonville. It's as they kind of trek across the country. It's the wolves and the butterflies. I can't remember what they're called. They have a name. The different
fireflies.
Fireflies, thank you. Yeah, the fireflies and the wolves and all the different communities that have sprung up through this, that are kind of persevering together and that have endured and survived. The Walking Dead is about the Walking Dead. I haven't rewatched the show in a long time, probably never will, because I don't like how it ends, but I can't think of very many episodes in The Walking Dead or very many instances in the game where zombies aren't a big factor in things. There's lots of stuff that happens in The Last of Us that it could be zombies, it could be disease, it could be famine. All you need is something has happened in this world to make it go, fall to pieces. And now the humans are surviving. Zombies just aren't as big or even the cordyceps thing, aren't as big a factor. The big incident that sets the game off is a trigger-happy police or security guy shoots Sarah. Sarah isn't killed by a zombie. No zombies are involved in the big tragedy. No, Joel doesn't fall to the zombies. None of the main characters, or very few of the main characters, actually fall to zombies or the cordyceps or the infected in The Last of Us. They kill each other.
It's like you said, it's very the humans are the real monsters kind of vibe. I think works. I mean,
The Last of Us is great, and I considered picking it for this because I think it's really interesting with what it does. But they don't call them zombies, and it's not as focused on zombies, which is why I didn't pick it. But it's a great.
I think The Walking Dead's a more interesting pick. I think
The Last of Us intentionally sidesteps zombie tropes. It's not interested in, nobody turns ever in The Last of Us. Not that I can think of.
And then in the show, do we see it in the games though?
Sam turns into one, but you kind of don't really see it. It just kind of happens overnight in the first one.
Oh, you're right. Sam does turn.
Yeah, but that's the only one I can think of across two.
Riley
turns. All right, I made a bad point.
No, I think
you're
we had
right.
to think about
no,
it.
I think you're. I mean, Riley's a DLC character, and I still can't remember this happening with Sam. You are right. It moves away from. There's never an incident in The Last of Us, and there is in The Walking Dead, where someone gets bitten and nothing happened to me. Dun dun dun.
Right. Yeah.
And that happens twice in The Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead is all about dealing with what zombies mean, what they do to us, how they change us. Totally. Sort of a quintessential zombie story. I think you're totally right. Now that I think about it more, I agree. That is the thing. That is the one for sure.
If aliens invaded and asked us what zombies were, we would say watch the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, but then just don't bother watching the rest.
Please stop. Please stop after that. Yeah. My turn?
Yeah, what about you, Eric? What is your favorite zombie game?
So the show is not your favorite zombie game.
That's true.
It's your favorite game with zombies, which I very annoyingly took literally.
Oh, no.
So I picked a game that is not a zombie game, but is a game that has zombies.
I think
deliberately
that's a fair interpretation of the prompt. Ours both feature zombies pretty heavily, but I think as we do more of this show, we'll lean on that interpretation of yours quite a bit.
Well, and it wasn't just to be cute, because I think talking about the way that zombies are part of everything, not everything, but are part of so much of gaming
Yeah.
is important. So I didn't want to be too cute about it. I didn't pick, World of Warcraft or Minecraft.
Minecraft would have been an annoying one to pick, I think.
I would have at least understood
Castlevania,
that.
Wolfenstein, Doom, my beloved Darkwatch. I didn't pick any of those games, but those are all games with zombies. I picked Half-Life.
Okay.
The headcrab zombie, and here's why. Kind of like we touched on this before, but because zombies are so ubiquitous, overdone, tropey, I think that it is hard to find the fear. And I really like what Stacey's picked because the way that Walking Dead season 2 gets into the heart, the interpersonal aspect of zombies reminds you of how scary they really are. I think 28 Days Later was like amidst that big zombie boom, that was the one that was like, oh, zombies are terrifying. And I think Half-Life is another one of those because Half-Life takes the infection and the loss of control. It takes the parasite and it puts it on their heads. The zombie parasite that changes you, that takes over your body, it's invisible. Your face gets weird, your arm falls off, you're the person is transformed into something other. But what is doing that to you is unseen because it's a microscopic virus.
Yeah, it's in the blood or something like that, from the bite.
Yeah. So like it's the monster inside, right? But the head crab zombie is a monster on your head that takes control of you, that takes control of your body. And that is so scary. It's so scary to think of this like xenomorph creature latching onto your head and taking control of your body. But then it's so scary to see that coming at you, with a brick or whatever shambling towards you. It's just like, it's so monstrous, and it's such a cool interpretation of the zombie.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't really thought of that because if you think of like in Dead Rising, for example, you're not really scared of becoming a zombie, right? Like if you were a zombie in Dead Rising, what it mean is your dead body would be smashed in the face with a guitar. Like honestly, who cares? And in The Walking Dead, the fear is in the transformation. The fear is in, if I get bitten, I'm going to die. Yes, there's something to the kind of, and I'll hurt the ones around me, and leave me here to die because I don't want to, come back after I'm gone. But the fear is in death. With the head crab thing, it is in the idea of that you would be controlled. The idea that you would still be, I don't know, conscious or feel it or kind of know what you're doing, but be unable to stop it. Something we've seen explode in other media when it's like, a wizard makes you do it, and that's less scary because it's a wizard. But a big scary thing on your head that can move your limbs and force you to kill things, and how exactly that works in terms of what you're even kind of witnessing inside there. What can you kind of see, how conscious you are. I think it's a really interesting pick for this because I think all three of them, we didn't discuss what we were picking beforehand, and they all offer really different like styles of zombie.
Yeah. And that's a big part of what has made zombies so long lasting, right?
There's different ways to do them.
There's so much to it. Yeah. I really like the idea. I really like the exploration of what the zombie experience is. And that is what scares me so much about the headcrab zombie. The idea that you're still in there, you're being consumed from the head down, and your body being forced to do these things. I think, not to get off the Half-Life train too quickly, but the way the end of Dying Light, the following, when spoiler,
Crane, right?
Yeah, when Crane becomes the zombie, the way that is represented as this like fantasy, this delusion. He's in this delusion where he's fighting monsters and he's protecting people, and then it shows the reality and it's just him being a zombie and killing people. I think that is such a fascinating interpretation of what like the zombie experience is, because Stacey's totally right. If you just like die and then your body's a zombie, who cares? You're like dead.
Yeah, but you're gone.
That's
It's
the
just
scary
you're
part.
just reusing a body.
Yeah. But the idea that you might still be in there fighting for control, or you have lost your mind and now you're acting this way for reasons you don't even understand. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but now you've mentioned it, actually, yeah, you love Dying Light. I'm surprised that's not one you picked. Is it just because the
Yeah.
head crab was such a fascinating kind of image and more unique that you went with that? Because yeah, I probably, if I thought about it for longer than a second, I probably would have bet on you having Dying Light here.
I would have bet on you
I
having
love
Resident
Dying
Evil
Light.
4 remake. To be honest, that was my
Dude,
guess.
I just love zombies.
That's true,
y'all.
yeah, right. We both love Resident Evil, actually.
Yeah.
All three of us do. Yeah.
Huge into Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were so many games I could have picked, and Dying Light was close to the top of the list. But Half-Life, it means so much to me. It was like my childhood game, I guess. And I think very specifically the Ravenholm sequence from Half-Life 2. I know that's the most off-cited part of Half-Life, but it's a horror sequence. It's a zombie survival sequence. That really gets into a Resident Evil survival horror kind of thing, where that's when you first get the gravity gun and you're learning how to use it creatively, but it becomes this like the way that you use your resources, right? The way that you do in Resident Evil in a survival horror game, where you're using the environment and looking for ways to defend yourself, because the ammo's so scarce on purpose. Like, they take your bullets away for this and force you to pick up crates, look for buzzsaws, and in part it's because it's like, look how cool this tech is, what we can do with the gravity gun.
Yeah.
Right. But also, like, it is evoking that survival horror genre.
You don't think that when you play it the first time, like going back now and playing it, especially maybe playing it as kind of games journalist, and like, you maybe think kind of that, but the first time you play that, especially if you kind of played it around the time it came out, at no point did you think, oh, this is a cool tech demo for something, because the game, it's too, I guess, intense in the moment for you to kind of care that this is basically a tutorial, because it never feels like that.
Yeah, there are no combine soldiers anywhere except for the dead ones. It is a all zombie sequence, and this is where you meet the fast zombies, right? Which quick segue, fast zombies came from House of the Dead. Those were the first. Yeah, those were the first fast zombies. So you get the black, like, spindly ones, and they run up the buildings. The first time you see them, you're like standing on a really small roof, and you can see them running up the buildings in the distance, and then they start running up your building. So scary, super scary stuff. I think that's such a cool interpretation of zombies.
Yeah, I think everything that Half-Life does just has this really cool, like, element to it. Everything in there, it feels like it's had something that I think some modern games kind of miss. It feels like somebody somewhere has pitched a thing and gone, because it would be cool. Not because of any other reason, not because, like, demographics or audience, like, time on screen or retention. It's one of those games that every single inch of it, you feel like someone's gone because it's cool. And they're right about pretty much all of it. And we'll get the third one any day
now. Is this something you have ever gotten into, George? I know it's a little before your time.
Half-Life, you mean?
Yeah.
I've tried my hardest. I got the orange box. I played most of 2. I think I was too young, to be honest. I think it just went over my head. I'd heard it was good, but I think at the age I would have been, which was probably like 12 or something, I didn't realize that what I was playing was like a cornerstone of gaming. I was just like, this is a video game that's next to Team Fortress 2, which has hats and those funny YouTube videos.
It does have hats.
And I think that was it. I plan on playing it. Maybe if they announce a third one, maybe that's their incentive. I will play their game. I appreciate it a lot, though. I hear a lot about it from James Troughton at the site. James loves Half-Life.
A lot of people say that. We've got a few reports from James on the site about various bits of its development and some of the fan and mod projects. It's one of those games that has a lot of love. keeping it alive. It's a little bit of a zombie itself these days, but people are still hoping, to find the cure.
Well, we talked a little bit about other kinds of games that feature zombies. I want to talk about other kinds of zombie games a little bit too. The first one that comes to mind is the zombie spin-off, which is sort of an interesting subgenre. I think you would probably say it either started or at least was popularized by Call of Duty.
Oh yes, I wasn't quite sure, but yes, now that makes perfect sense. I was thinking
Undead Nightmare was the first thing that came to my head. Red Dead Redemption.
Yep. Yeah. Red Dead Undead Nightmare. There is a Yakuza.
Yes.
Oh my god, yes.
Dead Souls.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a nice moment of unity there. I like that.
the zombie spinoff is interesting. I wonder. I don't think that you could put zombies in just every game, but probably most games you could do some kind of zombie mode or zombie DLC.
Yeah,
What do you think that is?
I think Red Dead's the most interesting one because that is a game that it's got some funny moments in. The characters are quite well written, but takes itself quite seriously. Not to spoil the ending of Red Dead, but both of the Red Dead games, I haven't played Revolver, but both of the Redemption games are quite harrowing in a lot of the kind of emotional beats that they take you through. And I think if that can do the zombie thing and pull it off, and I know the Wild West setting helps because it kind of leans, Wild West I think leans itself to fantasy these days because there's so few kind of cowboy movies, and the ones that are tend to have some kind of angle to them. Cowboys and Aliens kind of comes to mind. But I think if a game that's that self-serious about being a real game can do it. This is not GTA. Obviously, if Rockstar did it with GTA, that's naturally a little bit sillier. Red Dead is the more prestige one, so I think there's probably a lot of games that could do it. It seems to be fewer games would kind of do something for a bit of a laugh these days, and I'm sure the developers worked very hard on Dead Souls and Undead Nightmare, but they do feel like they come from a place of this would be a laugh.
Right. Yeah. When it didn't take 5 years to make a game.
Exactly,
or to make a DLC. Yeah, for sure. A couple others that come to mind. GTA 4 did Zombie Apocalypse.
Yes.
And Sniper Elite had a whole spin-off series, the Nazi Zombie Army. I think they've done multiples of those. As far as
I think that kind of riffs on Call of Duty's, though, doesn't it? Really,
yes,
like that. The idea that that's a thing is taken from Call of Duty's ideas.
Yeah. Saints Row 2 had a very cool optional mode that was a zombie survival thing, and then Saints Row the Third had like the whole island. So that series, RIP, has a lot of love for zombies.
The Call of Duty thing is interesting because it has sort of spun off into its own genre. I've played some indies that were Call of Duty zombies like. I kind of imagined, or I would have thought that lots of games would have their own Call of Duty Zombies mode, or that there would be a core game that was based on Call of Duty Zombies, but there really isn't. It's still Call of Duty.
Yep.
And it's not even every Call of Duty. It's Call of Duty has that rotating trio of developers. I can't remember which one it is that does zombies, but Treyarch. I thought I didn't want to. So yeah, it's only when Treyarch have the football that we get a zombies thing. The other ones have their own little spins that they put on things. But you're right. I think there's a lot of people that I know who play Call of Duty who mainly play it. Zombies is kind of the thing that gets them into it. Like they don't really care about the online stuff because it's become so, built around meta and endlessly replaying and those sorts of things. But the zombies, it kind of captures the feeling that anyone who's our age at least who played Call of Duty as a kid probably remembers Call of Duty being like, the kind of much more insular version of online, which you don't really get these days. No, it's just sometimes just because we're older and we don't go to school anymore and have people who have nothing to do in their lives but to sit and drink like fizzy pop and play Call of Duty all night. But it does feel like online gaming is a little bit less community based these days, and I think zombies is kind of, for a lot of people, is maybe the nostalgia of that you can't recreate in Warzone.
Yeah, I agree. And it's wild to me to think World at War obviously introduced zombies. I think that was that was Treyarch.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was, I can't remember the exact
Nazi
backstory of it,
zombies.
but I remember someone saying that it was supposed to be like a joke or like a mode that they weren't allowed to have. So they just had it as a secret extra that you weren't supposed to see, and then it just spawned a whole series. I love that. I love the origins of that. It's what you two are saying. Developers can't just have fun now. Like that would never fly now. You'd never see a secret mode.
That's true.
Hidden that has so much time and depth put into it. It's a relic in a lot of ways.
It
I
is,
find that
yeah.
really
It's interesting. Yeah, I don't remember it being a big. I remember it being a popular thing in World of War, but I had that when it came out. The first Call of Duty that I had was the original Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, which I'm amazed that there's more than one of those. But the OG Modern Warfare, it was the first Call of Duty that I had played like properly. I think I'd played a little bit too, and before was the first one that I had, and World of War was 5, but I don't remember that being like a thing in like the adverts or kind of like you've got to play it. It's got the zombies in. Like
no, it wasn't at all.
It wasn't part of it. It was something that you kind of. I think someone at school discovered it, and then we all played it because of that.
It was a playground rumor for me as well. I think
when you were in nursery.
I think I was 7. So maybe not World at War, but definitely going on from that, like Black Ops. It was like, have you seen the zombies mode?
Yeah.
I think I am not that big into Call of Duty now. I don't have time.
No, me neither. Really haven't played it for a long time.
That's quintessential zombie spin-off, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if one of you had showed up and said your favorite game with zombies was Call of Duty, I would have said that was a really, really solid pick. I think they really represent an idea of zombies pretty well.
Well, we, of course, couldn't do a show about zombies without talking about Call of Duty. I think there's a couple more of these iconic, massive phenomenon games we have to at least mention. I think number 1, Left 4 Dead.
Yep.
Yes.
George, you mentioned that
Nearly
kind of
pick.
very briefly. Why were you going to pick it?
I just think it's a solid. I don't know why it hit me so hard. It was quite. I haven't played it in a long time, but I think the difference with Left 4 Dead is it kind of captures the Dead Rising element of loads of zombies on screen, you're wiping out, killing loads of them, but it also has the difficulty factor as well. Like you can kill a lot of zombies, but you're so easily wiped out, and then you have the special zombies as well take you out. I think the unique element of Left 4 Dead, for me, and this is kind of a weird reason I like it, I don't think people would agree, it was all the interactions the characters had. Like the core
100%.
cast in both games. The fact that it was almost endless. I remember I used to just scroll on the Wikipedia pages like, oh, you can get this interaction if you talk like this. And it didn't always happen, but the fact that they had so much character and personality put into them, even beyond the gunplay being awesome, all the maps being cool, it being super replayable, and just a great multiplayer game.
Yeah, the multiplayer is a huge slice of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you're a zombie or a survivor, it was sick. But I think it was those interactions. I think Valve just really does characters well. When they make games, they do characters really well. I hope they hear that.
Yeah, I mean, Left 4 Dead took over my school. Everyone I knew had a Left 4 Dead group. It turned like playing zombie games into a hobby. Everybody was getting together to run through missions, and we would run through the same campaigns over and over and over and over, and they felt different. And this was before we had battle passes or any kind of progression at all, and we were just playing these over and over and over again.
The big thing, it wasn't in Left 4 Dead, I think, but in Call of Duty, the big thing was if you got to prestige. That was the big thing.
Yeah.
Oh, 4th prestige. just a pointless little medal you got next to your name.
Yeah,
that's the only thing you got.
For Left 4 Dead, we were just trying to beat our own time.
Yeah.
Massive phenomenon. I was playing it at my friends' houses, and then I was playing it on Steam Online. And even to this day, when I was at PAX, I went over to the PC Free Play, and I saw groups of people playing Left 4 Dead 2. It will never die. It's a kind of a perfect game.
Yep, agree.
Got to also mention DayZ. DayZ was quite a phenomenon. Really only touched PC, so I think that there's a lot of console players that missed out on the whole DayZ thing.
That is I saw it all on YouTube, and I was.
You're aware, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You can't be unaware of something like DayZ. That was huge.
That's we wouldn't have Fortnite without
100%, yeah.
DayZ for sure. We wouldn't have PUBG.
Damn you,
without,
DayZ.
without DayZ, and we wouldn't have Fortnite without PUBG. There's a direct lineage. Like DayZ was originally an Arma 2 mod, and I think a lot of people don't even know what Arma is. Arma's still going. Arma's really popular. But I think DayZ was the breakout for the battle royale.
Yeah, I think so. And people are still trying to like do that today. Like not just DayZ, but like other games are trying to do the kind of what if we did zombies in a genre that doesn't quite kind of fit in, you know, the crafting and the base building kind of aspect of it. Mm-hmm. I think it's had a really, really big influence. Probably a little bit of an outsized influence for how relatively few people know it. I think that's the one game that we've mentioned today that I wouldn't be surprised if people hadn't heard of. Mm-hmm. You know, I could go to my parents and say, "Have you heard of Call of Duty?" And they'd say, "Yeah, of course. Where's that for? Egypt." But they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know DayZ.
Okay, and here's another one your parents probably haven't heard of, but was and sort of continues to be a phenomenon in itself. Zombies Run. You're looking at me with blank faces.
Yeah, you've lost me on that one. Zombies Run. Is it a mobile game? It sounds like a mobile game.
This is the fitness, the running game.
I've never heard of it.
Really?
Now you say that. Yes,
okay.
I know what that is.
10 years, George. This is going to blow your mind. So Zombies Run is basically a audio drama. It's a podcast.
Right.
But it's a chapter-based linear story that they've been telling for 10 years. But it is a running game. So
does it play when you run?
It is. So the story has built in, now it's time to run because the zombies are chasing you. So when you do your daily running, you listen to these stories and you choose, how long you want your running to be. You can even filter your music in during that part because there's parts where the story drops out and now you're just running, and you can have it switch to start playing your music and then come back to the story when it's time to cool down and walk.
Why have I never heard of this?
You collect items. You have an inventory. Like as you're running, it's telling you like you picked up a health pack.
Damn, what?
Yeah. And they've been doing it for 10 years.
It is a thing.
It is a thing. Yeah.
Next time you see me, I will be buff. I would have been playing Zombie Run.
Filling out that motorcycle jacket.
It is massively successful. Last year they launched Marvel Run, and they do the same thing now with stories about the Hulk and Captain America and Iron Man.
That works a little less, I think.
Well, there's like other things have nicked the idea as well, because you have like those running medals you can get, can't you? Like you tell them how far you've ran. It's like, oh, you've ran the length of Westeros. Have a medal.
Right. Right.
And there's a Tomb Raider one. There's a Scooby-Doo one. There's loads of them. I keep getting targeted adverts for them because I'm always interested in them. So I click on them, but not enough to actually run anyway. So
we just hear a Lara Croft voice coming from Stacey's phone. Now it's time to run.
Yeah, super cool. Super. I'm all about gamifying the parts of life that suck.
I'm so in on Pokemon Sleep.
Yeah, Pokemon Sleep. I'm way into it. Yeah. Just Pokemon Go's appeal to me is if I have to leave the house, at least I get to play a game while I do it, right? Like, if for any reason I have to leave my house, at least I can play video games while I do it. Zombie Run is super cool. Do you guys feel like there's any other pinnacle zombie video games we haven't touched on here?
It's not for me, but Plants vs. Zombies is there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Oh, actually, yeah.
If we're talking about killing the toilet time that sucks, then Plants vs. Zombies.
Did either of you play the sequel, though? Because the sequel was completely different. The sequel wasn't a mobile game. The sequel was like a team shooter. It was a hero shooter.
Oh, Garden Warfare. Yeah,
Garden Warfare, yeah.
That's the third one. But
that was 3. I played quite a bit of that. I don't really get into hero shooters very much, but there was something about that I did find really fascinating for a while.
Yeah, it was good. I like that.
It's a really had some really interesting use of the characters, I guess, because when you do a mobile game, that's the same thing over and over again. You need to have a variety of characters, so it actually translated a lot better than I thought it would too.
Yeah.
The Plants vs. Zombies story is really the story of the rise of PopCap and browser-based games.
Yeah.
To the destruction of PopCap under EA. That's a really fascinating story, and that's another good example of all the different kinds of genres that zombies touch.
Yeah.
They Are Billions is a zombie RTS. 7 Days to Die is a zombie survival crafting open
Project
world.
Zomboid.
Project Zomboid, yeah, that's what I was thinking of before.
Yeah, Pro Zombie Soccer is just an iPhone game I just scrolled by.
I've never heard of
Yeah. I sure love zombies. Okay. Wow, I think we pretty much covered. Obviously we didn't cover all of it. But I think we have our bases covered there. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Shockingly few mentions of Resident Evil in the zombie podcast, I gotta say. I am
You know what?
stunned.
You know what? Resident Evil is going to come up so much on this show.
I think we all sidestepped it, so we could talk about Resident Evil in the future.
Yeah. Because there's a different version of this episode where we just talked about Resident Evil for an hour.
Yep.
And I feel like that's coming eventually. So don't feel like we left it out or that we don't know about Resident Evil.
Yeah. What's your favorite game with backflips over chainsaws?
Cool. Okay, great. That's it for this episode of Your Favorite Game. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back next week to talk about another one of your favorite games. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and visit us at thegamer.com. That's The Gamer, no spaces.